Good afternoon. Moss here. Let's take a look at some of the, let's talk about the Tuskboss changes, and let's look at some monsters in the Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys armies, and sort of see if the Tuskboss is worth taking now compared to other hero monsters in the game. Argyle Alligator. Look at this picture. Just fantastic. Love the paint job here. Cool. So, damage. Okay, so this damage comparison chart is a breakdown of Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, Tuskboss, Gobsprak, Vulture Boss, like the Kill Boss on Vulture, Snatcha Boss, and Swamp Boss Scumdrek. This is only what they can do on their War Scrolls. I did not include Violent Fury because I don't know about you, but I find that Violent Fury most often is put on units such as Gore Gruntas, Ardboys, and Brutes. I almost never have put Violent Fury on a Maw Crusher. I have, but not very often. Also, for the Tuskboss, I did not include any momentum because you almost never get momentum. Right, momentum is a mechanic that doesn't really come into play. So, there it is. I did include destroyer versions for both the Maw Crusher and the Tuskboss because that is fundamentally what we're talking about. So the changes are that the Tuskboss can now take enhancements, just like a Mega Boss. So this means that they can take command traits, artifacts of power, right? So, for example, your Tuskboss can now take Mighty Wild Leader, where you can reroll charges, but you could already do that. So, yeah, I mean, you could take Hulking Brute, I don't know. For command traits, there's nothing really that goes on the Tuskboss that's fantastic. There's also nothing really that goes on the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher for a command trait that I find particularly compelling. You know, Mega Bossy, if you have a Maw Crusher as your general, do you really care about issuing Mighty Destroyers again? Because you get to do it 3 times. So what you're saying is, I'm going to take this enhancement so I can do it a 4th time. Well, chances are you're not really going to, you're probably not going to do that almost ever, right? So it's not like it's a big... sometimes I have trouble finding a 3rd target for Mighty Destroyer, right? So, and then on a Tuskboss, you get to issue it twice now. So it's I don't know, feels pretty weak. So that's why I tend to go Master of Magic, right, for on a Weird Knob Shaman. But more importantly, they can also take the Tuskboss can also take a Destroyer now. So I included versions of that. Okay, so if we're looking at just straight up damage, so our Maw Crusher is going to be the one that is going to deal the most damage. They're best against all the different saves. You can see here also in the 4 up save category, I included a breakdown of points of damage per point, right? So if we're looking there, Maw Crusher is sitting at a 0.034. Right? So just for reference, just for simplicity of language, I'm just going to call this 34, right? Do understand that it's 0.034, but I mean, if it's 0.034, that's per point. So per 100 point, it would be 3.4. That's probably a better way of conceptualizing and talking about this, the damage here, right? It's 3.4 damage per 100 points. God, that's such a better idea than what I've done. Well, next time. Right, and with Destroyer, we're getting close to that 5 damage per 100 point mark, and this is the biggest. The second biggest is Snatcha Boss, right? Because Snatcha Boss is only 290 points, and Scumdrek is only 280 points, and that's a significant point reduction, right? That's 170 points cheaper on Scumdrek, and you don't need to take an artifact here. This is why I think that right now the Snatcha Bosses, both versions, are your go-tos if you're looking to take a monster in Big Wa. right? And then in Cruel Boys too, right? Like it's such a good monster, all around good monster, right? It takes the enhancements super well. It's fantastic. So even if he's not your general, right? Like very, very good. But the Tuskboss is performing the lowest. And of course, this is without any momentum, but the Tuskboss is actually straight up on damage. Against a 4-up save, we're looking at 8.89 damage. And then the lowest is Gobsprak at 7.54 damage. Like, the difference against this 4-up save is so small. If we wanted to actually calculate it out, you know, your Tuskboss against a 4-up save on average is going to deal 1.35 more damage. Like, flat. And then if we're looking at costs per, or damage per point, Gobsprak actually outperforms the Tuskboss. Gobsprak deals 3.1 damage per 100 points, and Tuskboss only deals 2.3 damage per 100 points, which is, like, that's a lot lower. That's significantly lower. And then Scumdrek is at, like, 5 damage per 100 points. It's doubling the number of points that the Tuskboss deals without any enhancements, without Destroyer. And even once we pop Destroyer, a Tuskboss with Destroyer for that turn is dealing less damage per point than a Vultureboss without any enhancements, because the Tuskboss is almost double the points of a Vultureboss, right? Like, it's incredible how little damage the Tuskboss actually does. It's shocking when you really look at these numbers. It's incredible, right? So in terms of, you know, and then if we wanted to see like what would be really good against a high armor save, the story is very much the same. You know, Scumdrek is going to be your best performer here. You know, Swamp Boss Scumdrek is going to deal 10.33 damage expected damage against a 2-up save, because we have those Venom Encrusted Weapon mortal wounds that are going through. So the better the save that you're playing against, right? The higher the armor of the opponent, of your opponent's army, the better our Cruel Boys monsters get, and the worse our Iron Jaws monsters get. Against bad saves, the story is sort of flipped, right? Against poor save armies, then the mortal wounds aren't as efficient as just raw damage output and rend and such, right? So, but the difference is phenomenal. So, you know, when it comes to damage, even with Destroyer, our Tuskboss is not very efficient in its points. You also have to remember too that the reason that the difference between the, and look at the Maw Crusher's points. The Maw Crusher with Destroyer is getting close to that 5 damage per 100 points, you know, and it's going to deal just way more raw damage than even Scumdrek, right? Scumdrek against a 4-up save is going to deal like 14-ish damage, and the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher with Destroyer against a 4-up save is going to be doing like 22-ish damage. So sometimes, you know, like when you're dealing more and more damage in one go, like in one combat round, it can be worth more and more total points, if that makes sense, right? Because you're sort of guaranteeing that whatever you're fighting is going to be removed before it gets a chance to fight back. Like there's value in having a large amount of burst damage in one go. So, but still, like the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher with Destroyer is going to be our highest damage output. If you're looking for the big fist, that's the guy. Really hard to fit him into lists right now with the Ardboy changes, right, with the points increases and all that. So I'm still thinking if you're just looking for a slappy monster, that Scumdrek is the way to go, for sure. 280 points, or the Snatch Boss and Sludgeraker Beast for 290 points. You know, very, very good. The difference between the Snatch Boss and Scumdrek is just if you have enhancements that you want to put on. If you want to put enhancements on him, 10 more points, done, right? If you want to have Smelly, and if you want to have Fast and on him, right, ready to rock and roll. So, yeah, I mean, straight up damage, Tusk Boss sucks. He sucks. You're not getting momentum. So let's look at utility. Let's compare the utility of some of these monsters. So Gobsprak brings, in my opinion, the most utility, especially in this season, with, you know, just being a 2-cast wizard, with having unbinds. even what's that thing called? Is it the Mouth of Mork, right? So like Gobsprak is able to, when he issues redeploys, you get to reroll, and when he issues Unleash Hell, you get to you don't have to suffer that -1 penalty. You know, you have the Mork says no, 3 unbinds. You know, like, just in terms of what Gobsprak is bringing to the table for utility for the rest of the army, it's phenomenal. The second best, I would say, is the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher being able to issue 3 commands. Being able to like run 3 units forward, 3 Iron Jaw units forward, being able to redeploy 3 Iron Jaws units, being able to rally 3 Iron Jaws units, Inspiring Presence 3 Iron Jaws units, Mighty Destroyers 3 Iron Jaws units, has incredible utility. Incredible utility. I miss having triple commands in my Big Wa army right now. Sludge Rakers bring a lot of utility to your Cruel Boys units. You know, so the Maw Crusher brings it to the Iron Jaws units more powerfully than the Sludge Raker brings it to the Cruel Boys units. But if you're playing 6 Bolt Boys and a Swamp Call Shaman or a Killbow, you know, having a Sludge Raker that is sitting there and ready to go and is ready to slap back against anything that charges into your castle, you know, adding +1 mortal wounds on those 6s can be quite good if you're using Hasty Shot, right? You're throwing 13 dice with 6 Bolt Boys with Hasty Shot, so you're going to be scoring a 2-3 extra mortal wounds from Sludge Raker, and that can add up, right? Like, that can be pretty good. So the Vulture Boss, in my opinion, brings very little utility. This is, I think, I mean, I'm kind of disappointed in the utility that the Killer Boss and Corpse Rip of Vulture brings. Commanding View is such a weak ability. Being able to issue the same command again, but having to pay 1 command point for it, is not very good. I think that this ability needs a rework in our next book. It's not very good. And then All Parted to Plan is like fine. You know, like fine. Like, what are you really doing here? You're saving a command point for Inspiring Presence. That's all you're doing. You're just saving a command point instead of Inspiring Presence. Just one thing is going to run instead. So it's like, you know, fine. But really what you want this really fast flying unit to do is to be moving all over the battlefield and reinforcing and using Fasten. And so, I don't know, he brings almost no utility, right? The Vulture Boss brings almost no utility to your army. But I think the Tusk Boss actually brings nothing. You know, he kind of really brings nothing. Unlocking Maw-Gruntus' battle line, like, is anyone doing that? Right? Are any competitive lists doing that at all? Are they running Maw-Gruntus at all? I don't think so. And so if a unit is going to bring some utility and then no one ever uses it, functionally, they're bringing 0 utility. Momentum isn't a very good ability either, right? Like, it's not doing anything, right? Because you can't maintain it. The only way that you can reliably use momentum is if you pay 100 point tax for Rabble Rouser. And I still think that Rabble Rouser is, if you wanted to play big pigs, you kind of have to play them with Rabble Rouser. You have to be able to get a run in charge. If you can't get a run in charge, then I think they're actually I want to say unplayable, but I think they're actually bad. I won't say that they're unplayable, but I will say that they're bad. If you can't get a run in charge, they're actually just bad. And then, yeah, I mean, the Monstrous Rampage, you're not doing it because you don't have momentum, right? And then what is it? If you charge and you successfully charge, then you can reroll all charges for Maw-Gruntus on the battlefield until the end of the phase, right? But you're not playing Maw-Gruntus. So it's like, I actually think right now that the way that our book works and the way that everything works, that the Tusk Boss is bringing 0 functional utility to the table. So, I mean, that's how it is, right? So, I mean, in conclusion, all these changes for the Tusk Boss, still unplayable, even with those changes. It's better. It should, I don't know. If I was going to rewrite this War Scroll, I would rewrite it. I would say it's a Mega Boss on Maw-Grunta. Right? It's a Mega Boss on Maw-Grunta. And then I would change I'd give him the, whatever the name of the ability is, where you get to issue commands, right? What's it called? Skull Shaking Bellow, right? I'd give him Strength from Victory, Skull Shaking Bellow, and that would be enough. And then you need to fix momentum. Oh, to fix momentum, all I think you need to do is you need to just only get -1 momentum on at the end of your turn or at the end of your opponent's turn. Probably at the end of your turn, I think would be better. I think that would insulate you a little bit better against the double turn, where it's not like getting worse and then getting worse again for your being double turned, right? It's only going to get worse at the end of your turn and then be consistent, like be the same through a double turn against you. So that would help, but I don't know. Right now, still pretty bad. So let me know what you think. What kind of changes do you think we should bring to the Tuskboss so that he's actually good and playable? Let me know in the comments below. Join the Discord, all that. Like, subscribe. Wow!